Hello, my name is Reverend Darrell Miller. I am the founding lead pastor of Contending for the Faith Reformed Church here in Atlanta, Georgia. I just want to say that I just recently watched a video concerning that of Mr. Alton Sterling, who was killed at the hands of a white police officer in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I want to say that this man was pinned down. I saw how that this white officer, who in turn had taken his gun out and pumped 7 bullets within this man's body. And yet I am disturbed by the fact that there are those on Facebook who make such racist comments about Mr. Sterling, don't even know anything about this man. Yet they want to pull up his record and say that he was a previous criminal and he had a real long rap sheet. What does that have to do with this police officer who had pumped 7 bullets in this man's body? He did not pose any threat. He did not resist any arrest. Only thing he was trying to do is to sell some CDs. And yet, at the same time, it has been said that he had pulled a gun out on somebody at the store. Yet I want to say this, that he did not pose any threat whatsoever. I am tremendously disturbed by the fact that despite of the outrage that goes on in this country, yet the judicial system, as well as the law enforcement, as well as those who are supposed to be political candidates, have not spoken up and to condemn such an atrocity that has happened within Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Here is a man who had a family of 5, who has a 15-year-old son who cried for his daddy. Want to know what happened. Why did my father have to die this way? And yet you have the New York Times who have displayed that of Mr. Sterling on the front page, has posted on Facebook while he was lying there on the cement full of blood. And yet you have this murderous white cop who in turn had his gun posted on Facebook. The one who was responsible in killing Alton Sterling. I want to say this, that I was very disturbed by what I saw. I was outraged in what I saw. And yet I saw this video from different angles. And there are those who gets on Facebook with their racist comments to say that had he not resist, had he complied, then he would have lived. What I want to beg the difference is that no matter how you are, even as African American, I am at risk as an African American, pastor, leader, a grandfather. And yet, I am not exempt. And yet I am surprised, I am disappointed that those who consider themselves as evangelical leaders and those within the Reformed faith have not even got up, have not even stood up and spoke out against this type of atrocities. That says a whole lot about those who are white Christians. And yes, I have many Christian friends who are white. But I want to challenge that of the Reformed Baptist Church across America, those who call themselves Reformed, needs to speak up and speak out against such atrocities. Racism has not been done away with. It. Racism is still alive here on planet Earth. And I want to say this, is that I am concerned for my own grandson, who's 14 years old, who could possibly be a victim of police brutality and that of killings. I want to send a strong warning to those who continue to push within our face. There are many grieving families who have lost their loved ones to police brutality and that of killings. I want to warn you, please do not in turn continue to mush within our face. Yes, there are many families who are grieving. Yes, as a pastor, I grieve with these families. And yet there has not been any justice. There has not been anyone who has been tried and convicted for the crime that they have committed. We talk about the Freddie Gray situation where 2 police officers who have gotten off. There was one officer who was had the most egregious of crimes and charges, and yet he walked away free. I sometimes say that we live in a nation that calls itself a Christian nation, but yet is a pagan nation. Now you may say, Pastor, what is it that we must do? That is this. We as blacks as well as whites across this country, we need to sit down and to get a chance to know each other. Begin to realize that we do have our differences. We do have our struggles. And I want to challenge many of African Americans across this country to realize I understand your pain. I understand your frustration. But in order to be able to beat this system, we have to beat them to their game. And that is, we have to use our intellect. We have to know our rights as African Americans. And I want to challenge those who say that they are law enforcement officers. You all said that there are many good police officers. I would agree. And I'm not saying it is an indictment upon the whole law enforcement department. But I believe that if you have a fellow officer who is committing crimes against such humanity as what we have seen on yesterday. And matter of fact, I just saw another video where there was another African American man who was in his car with his girlfriend and his child. And this white officer shot this man. And yet, at the hands of a murderous police officer. And I want to say this, is that I have no other choice. Even though I'm a biblical pastor, even though I have my own congregation, I have no choice. I have been pushed, I have been forced into the political arena as to become a civil rights advocate. And I want to challenge many of you who call yourself reformed, both African Americans and whites. I have not heard of any evangelical pastor or church or leadership, those who are reformed, to speak out against this atrocity, to speak out against injustice, to speak out against discrimination and racism within that of this country. And I want to say this, is that unless America wake up, it's going to reap the bitter consequences of its own action. I want to challenge both the judicial system. I want to challenge that President Barack Obama, I am very disappointed in President Barack Obama, who in turn signed a bill to protect officers across this country. Mr. President, where was you at when Alton Sterling was killed, who had 7 bullets pumped into his chest? Where was you at, Mr. President Barack Obama, when you had people like Eric Garner, people like Tremere Rice, people like Sandra Bland? Where was you at, Mr. President? Yet at the same time, you went down to Sandy Hook, where those kids were killed by this deranged white gentleman. Where was you at, Mr. President? You signed all these bills to protect law enforcement, but you did not even go down to Ferguson to comfort Leslie, who lost her son, Michael Brown, at the hands of another white police officer. Where was you at, Mr. Barack Obama, when Tremere Rice was killed at the hands of a white racist police officer? Where was you at, Mr. President? Mr. President, where was you at when in fact is you have many families who have lost their loved ones at the hands of police brutality and killing? Where was you at, Mr. President? And yet you want to protect these murderous cops by protecting them from being killed. You signed a law, you signed a bill stating that you wanted to protect police. What about the protection of average citizens within this country? I am disappointed in you, Barack Obama, and I hope that you are seeing this video, because enough is enough. It's time that America get its act together. Things cannot continue to keep going the way they are. I cannot say what's going to happen. There is nothing. Once things begin to hit the fan, there is nothing that I, as a pastor, as a religious leader, there is nothing that the courts, there is nothing that the law enforcement, there is nothing that your judicial system can do once hell break loose. It's time that America get its act together. I am grieved over the fact that there are many families who have lost their loved ones at the hands of police brutality and murders. Enough is enough. How do you expect to live in a civilized society when you have those within that of such political leadership, just like the presumptive nominee Donald Trump, who is responsible for inciting violence within this country? What kind of president that we're going to have? Here it is. You have Hillary Clinton, who in turn called young black men super predators. How is it that her husband, President Bill Clinton, who signed a 1994 crime bill law that literally destroyed black families? We have many of our young black men who are incarcerated. And yet we say that just because we have a black president, that racism no longer exists. Wake up, America. Just because we have a black president, racism still exists. Now you may say, Pastor, what is the solution? First of all, we must understand that the white supremacist organization is behind all of what is going on in this country. Matter of fact, it is a proven fact. Donald Trump has made it possible for them to come out the woodworks. And yet at the same time, this country is in serious trouble. I want to say to many of our African American brothers and sisters who are out there, I feel your pain because you are one of us. I am one of you. I feel your pain. When you hurt, I hurt. When Alton Sterling, who was shot by this white racist police officer, pumped 7 bullets in his heart, it was like bullets went through my heart. Young men like Tremere Rice, a young man who only had a fake pellet bullet gun, and yet these white officers jumped out of their car and shot him right on the spot. I feel your pain. Those of you who have lost your loved ones to police brutality and killings. It's time, America, that we get our act together. If not, then we're going to experience such a civil war in this country. And it's unfortunate that consequences is not for some. It is for all. Whatever you sow, that shall you also reap. And I want to say I have many white friends, as well as many black brothers in the ministry who are reformed. Where are you at? I'm challenging you to go forth. I'm challenging you to speak out. Stop sitting around. Stop hanging around. Stop standing around these brick walls and begin to speak up. We talk about Black Lives Matter. Yes, Black Lives Matter. And yet you have those who want to use the same slogan, Police Lives Matter. White Lives Matter. Why won't you use your own slogan and stop trying to copy Black Lives Matter? We want to know why things are the way they are today. We live in a racist society that still judge you on the content of the color of your skin, not the content of your character. And I want to challenge many reformed pastors, churches, reformed white pastors and churches to stand up, to speak out against such atrocity, to speak out against such racism. Stop hiding behind the cloak of you being a white Christian. That's the reason why you have these African groups. That's why you have these militant groups. That's why you have blacks who are so angry, because they accuse the Christian church or Christianity as being responsible for the oppression and slavery of our people. And I want to say this: it's not Christianity that's the problem. It's the one who interpret Christianity. They are the perpetrators of white racism. They are the perpetrators of those who say that we are Christian. How in the world can you call yourself a Christian, white Christian, and yet you promote racism, violence, and atrocity? How can you do that? And I'm a biblical evangelical Christian leader myself. It's time, America, that you wake up, or else you're going to reap the consequences of your action. I say this under the unctioning of the Holy Spirit. Unless you as America, unless this nation turn back to its God, we're going to see the most massive atrocity that is in this country. You talk about ISIS. You talk about other countries who commit such a human rights violation. How can you, America, can talk about somebody else who are committing human rights violation when in fact is you are committing human rights violation within this country? And I can understand what Kim Jong-un said. You talk about how we commit human rights violations within that of this country. But this young Korean, North Korean leader is laughing at America, as well as others within other Middle East countries, who says, how can you talk about we commit human rights violation when you commit the same crimes of human rights violation against your own people? And I heard Kim Jong-un says, who is the North Korean leader, you kill black people. I do not condone human rights violation. Whether it's North Korea, whether it's Afghanistan, whether it's Iraq, even in the United States. And I know there are some of you all who may not like what I said, but guess what? Get over it. It's time. And I'm talking about these white biblical Christians. It's time that you speak up and stop allowing these things to go on. I'm speaking also concerning that of these African-American, quote, reformed pastors and churches. You need to speak up. Speak up. Speak aloud. Cry aloud. Because the time is near. This is all I have to say. I'm not going to say, may God bless America. I'm going to say, God help America.